Hello, my name is Debora Barkun, and I'm part of the Visible Employee Resource Group at CBC Radio-Canada. I have the pleasure to chat today with Catherine Tait, our President and CEO, about mentorship, diversity, inclusion. Hello, Catherine.
Hello, Debora.
First of all, what do you think mentorship should look like, and how should we use it to lift up the next generation?
Well, for me personally, mentorship is really about a willingness on both sides of the table for the mentor and the mentee to make a commitment to growth and to opportunity. And so I think first of all, it's wonderful to talk to you today about this because it's something that has been really, really important in my own career. And I think for the employees of Radio-Canada and CBC, we should be doing even more than we are already doing. We do a lot of really good mentorship programs, but it is, in my opinion, the heart of how to grow in a company.
Excellent. The public broadcaster is making changes to be more inclusive, but changes can take time. How do we retain talent when some of our people might feel excluded, marginalized, or invisible at the moment? So just to clarify, it's more, all these changes are coming from the top down, which are brilliant, but how, the people who are here, how do we support them?
I think it's about connection. I think we have a wonderful engagement team. I think you're a member of it, and a lot of initiatives. But really, and it shouldn't feel top down. But I think the very fact that we have set some very ambitious goals for the company, that we've set as personal objectives for the senior management and myself, diversity and inclusion is one of my objectives. I'm measured on advancing in that area. It is important that the top accept and embrace it. Then it's about, as you say, how do we live it and breathe it every day on the floor, as it were, on the people who are working here every day. And part of that is demonstrating through action advancement and opportunities for people. And that's where the mentoring piece comes in, and we can talk about that in terms of how that works. Yes. But really, at the end of the day, for me, the key element of mentoring is it's not just giving advice to people or even telling them how to do something that they might not know how to do. It's about stretching. And I know for myself personally, and I know that's another one of your questions, so I'm kind of jumping the gun. But I know for me personally that where I was mentored in my career, it wasn't so much about telling me, oh, it's this skill, you need to learn this skill, you need to do this thing to advance. It was about offering me a vision of myself and helping me to see myself in another role and imagining what advancement would look like. And once you have a vision of that, then you can live into that vision. And I think back to the question you're asking me is how do the people who are working throughout the organization feel that empowerment? It's that they need for their colleagues and for their managers to work with them to have that vision. And if we see people of diverse backgrounds, whatever that might be, if we imagine them in running the place, then it will happen.
Yes.
I'm the first woman to run the CBC Radio-Canada.
Yes.
Somebody had to have a vision of that, but I also had to have that vision.
Yes. So many other questions. How do we make sure that inclusion is more than a buzzword? How do you define diversity without using numbers, and what does it mean to you personally, which is part of what we covered, and not really expanding on it is, so people who tend to say, oh, I've got a black friend or a black brother-in-law or what. When you rely on that, it takes away the genuine feeling of I'm actually being inclusive. What you're telling me is that somebody else married somebody else. What you're telling me is something happened over there. With the numbers, we've put all these, but that doesn't mean inclusivity. It just means there are numbers out there and that people might very well be still feeling pretty uncomfortable. So how do you see it without looking at those numbers? How do I
live it?
Yes.
Well, I have to go to, I'm 60 years old. So I come from a world that was dominated by, and I can say it very openly, very dominated by white men all through my career. And my mentors, many of them were in fact white men. So inclusivity doesn't exclude the dominant culture or whatever that might be. What it is it's about imagination, as I said earlier, but it's also about how do you internalize tolerance and acceptance and the excitement of the other. And I always go back to what is it about being a creator or being a creative person or being a news person? What is it that makes us different from other people? Why did we self-select into this business? Yes. It's because we have the capacity and the imagination to imagine the other and to embrace the other and to tell those stories. And so for me, one of the reasons that I think that we're the best placed in the business to have success in inclusion and diversity is because we're about that. And I think we've made it very clear in our next strategy that we want to reflect and represent all Canadians, and I don't care who they might be, of whatever background or whatever experience. You need to see yourself in the public broadcaster, not just on the screen, behind the cameras, but also in the desk next to you. And there needs to be that tolerance, and there needs to be that excitement about what is it to be different.
Yes.
And accept that.
Thank you very much for your time today, Catherine.